Hi guys, welcome to the channel Learn with W3 Schools, and today we're going to cover JavaScript in 60 minutes. And we're going to idea is that we cover through major of the JavaScript topics, around 50 plus topics we're going to cover in 60 minutes. And we're going to talk about all major concepts of JavaScript, from basic variables to do loops and data types, and many things that we can do with JavaScript. So do stick around, follow along, and then let me know in the comments how you found this tutorial. I'm Dr. Zeeshan Bhatti, W3 Schools channel name. Subscribe and let's follow. JavaScript is a programming language used to make web pages interactive. JavaScript works with HTML, so do very be careful with that. So you need HTML and CSS at the backend, but you can also use JavaScript independently. It's a client language, meaning it runs in the browser. Now, where to use JavaScript? Well, JavaScript works with HTML. JavaScript needs to be written inside a script tag. There are standard three ways of doing it. First is you write the script tag inside the head. Second is you write the script tag inside the body. Third is you use an external JavaScript file, again using the script tag, but providing a source to that external JavaScript file. So this is three standard way of doing it. So one is we use the script tag and then we provide the JavaScript code inside it. Every JavaScript code must be within the script tag. This script tag can be written as many number of times as you want inside the head, body, or if you're using an external script, then no longer need to write the script tag. So if I'm writing it inside the body, I can write the script and then a JavaScript code goes here, or I can write it multiple times and I can use the JavaScript code here. Don't worry, we're going to talk about this in a moment. So JavaScript in a head tag. What we do is we create a standard HTML document, we create a head tag, and then we provide the script tag inside the head. This tells the browser that this is a script, or in other words, this is a JavaScript. And the code inside it is not HTML or CSS, but in fact is JavaScript. So in this case, we have created a function that when we call this function will perform a specific task. Again, function is a block of code that performs a specific task or performs specific instructions. So here we have written a script tag inside the head body. Similarly, you can write the same thing inside the body as well, and as many times as you want. So you can simply use the script tag inside the body and head as well. Okay. Once we have out of that way, let's see how we can generate output in JavaScript. So JavaScript can display data in a different ways. So for example, we use something called document.write. This is a way of printing some output on the web page. Document basically refers to the visible area of your document. It is an object within JavaScript that contains all the data about your visible area of your web page. So we're telling it, hey, there's a document which is actually a web page. Go and write a line on that. So this is a document.write output. This will write the line on this web page. This is same as print method in Python or system.out.println, if you can consider that. Then another way is using the alert method. Sometimes we precede the alert with window.alert. Window is again another object that refers to the browser window itself. So this object refers to the browser window. It contains a method called alert that will display a pop-up window displaying the message, whatever you want to print here. So we use document.write to print on the browser page. We use window.alert to give a pop-up message. And the third way is using the console.log. Console.log will print the message on the console, which is in the inspector element. So all three methods are used to print the output on the browser or on the console or on wherever you want to print. So once we know how to print the output, let's go and move and talk about more about JavaScript statements. JavaScript statements are simple statements that have basic structure, just like any other programming language. So we say let a is equals to 5. This is a statement. This statement means that we have created a variable and assigned it a value a. Let b basically means that, hey, let there be a variable. Again, there's no data type specified here. We're just saying that, hey, I want to create a variable which is a container and assign a value to that container. Then we say let sum is equals to a plus b. So we now do this expression, which basically means that we are adding these two variables together and assigning it to the sum. Then we use this sum value to be print out on the console. So we say console.log sum. So to view this output, you need to go inside your browser's inspector element to view this output. So inside your inspector element is a console tab. Just click on it and you will see the output. So console will print that output. That's how we simply write the JavaScript statements. Let's talk more about JavaScript syntax. JavaScript statements are composed of values such as operators, expressions, keywords, and comments. So here we have created a variable declaration, just like we did in previously. So let basically is a keyword that defines that I'm creating a variable. Let that variable be X. Again, this is a container. Variables are known as containers that store a particular value. So I can use this container, this variable, to access this value again and again. Okay, so this is basically how we define a simple variable declaration statement or any other statements in JavaScript. If you talk about comments in JavaScript, Comments, just like what we have done here, are line of code that are completely ignored by the browser and are not displayed to the user. They are like of instructions to the browser, instruction for the user or the developer itself, not the user at the backend. So these statements does not get printed at all. They are completely ignored, and they are more like a developer's thing that I can use it. So for in case I'm using a single line comments, which starts with a double backslash, means browser will just completely ignore the single line. If you are using multi-line, we use backslash static and then static backslash. This will create a multiple lines of comments, and then you can use it. So all of this will completely be ignored by the browser. Okay, so after comments, let's talk more about these variables that we just talked a little bit earlier. So we said, hey, JavaScript variables are basically a variable or a container that stores a particular value. So in this case, we are saying, hey, variable, I'm creating a variable that has a name and is of type string. Why it's a string? Because it starts with inverted quotations. So we use a keyword called variable, or we can use a keyword called let. Variable will define a variable of varying different types, and then you can have overriding this variable as well. Let will ensure that you do not basically violate the variable name rules. So we say, hey, I have a let age is equals to 30. So you can use a let, and then it will always be a type integer, and you cannot change its type. This will basically mean that I have a variable called age, and it's having a value number. Once the value has been assigned, now this will become an integer automatically. Integer is a number that means a number. And we say string is a name that contains a variable of string data type. Similarly, we can define them as constant, which basically means that now this variable value cannot be changed. So for example, if I use country, Pakistan, this basically means that now this variable is constant, it cannot be changed, and its value cannot be defined. Then I can print all these three variables on my console, or using document.write, or using window.alert. I'm saying console.log, go on the console, print the name, print the age, and print the country. Okay, that way it gets these things printed. So variables in JavaScript are simply declared by a var or a let keyword. Or even if you want, you don't need to use this as well. This also would work completely fine. So you don't need to specify anything. But it's always recommended that you use something called var or let. Okay, so let basically will allow us to have variables of specific type, and ensuring that the type does not change, and you cannot declare the same variable multiple times. Var name can be declared multiple times, so same name can be there. So now we have variables. So any value you want to store in the variables are basically stored in the age variable. Variables are quite important, and we use them consistently throughout our code. Let's talk more about JavaScript let. Let allows us to declare a block or a scoped variable, meaning that we say, hey, let car is equals to Toyota, but then we say block, and then we can print this with a particular information. So we can say let car is equals to Honda. So we are now defining the type of what car it is, and then we are using a print statement to print the output. So it will print the Honda value. But if you use console.log car, it will going to print Toyota. What's happening now is that we are defining a certain block of code that belongs to this variable alone. Meaning we are saying, hey, there's a car which has main called Toyota, but it contains a sub information as well, an inner information as well. Okay, so it's like a block inside a block. So this is a variable that contains a block of code, and that block of code says, hey, I have a Toyota, but I now want to redeclare it to a Honda. And then I'd print that variable's value. So when I print it, it will print Honda because it's inside this block of code. Outside of the block of code, if I use the car variable, it is still going to print the same output as Toyota. Okay, so that's what let allows us to do. Then we have something called JavaScript constants. Constant, again, as said, are basically variable that do not change. So for example, if variable is pi and I know that its value should not change, so I set it to a constant. Then we print that constant value and it gets printed. Then we move on to JavaScript operators. Operators are basically simple arithmetic operators that we talk about. So when we have JavaScript operators, meaning that simple plus, minus, multiply, divide, these are standard JavaScript operators that we use in our system. So we take variable 1, let, we take variable 2, name 2, then we say, hey, add number 1 with number 2. So we have plus, minus with that, multiply with that, divide with that. And then it's going to print the relevant answer to us. Okay, so these are what operators are. There are plus, minus, multiply, divide, modulus, and various other operators that we can use. We have something called arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators are again more mathematical calculation based operators. Same to general operators as we call them. So we have something called plus, multiply, bracket start, bracket close. So this becomes an arithmetic expression. So for example, if I want to do 5 plus 10 and multiply by 2, so I use brackets. If I don't use brackets, what happens is the multiplication has a higher precedence. So if I use this expression like that, now what it will do, it will multiply first because multiplication has higher precedence. So 10 multiplied by 2 becomes 20 plus 5, 25 will be the answer. But if we want this expression to evaluate first, so we use parentheses. Parentheses has always higher precedence. So parentheses will execute first. So it's going to do 10 plus 5, okay, becomes 15. 15 multiplied by 2, answer comes 30. So arithmetic expressions, whenever we write, we try to make sure that they are properly formatted based on whatever mathematical calculation we want to do. If we need multiplication first, we do that. If we need addition first, we do addition. If this is supposed to be subtraction, we need to put the subtraction here. Okay. Then let's talk about assignment operators. Assignment basically means that when one operator is called this one. This means that assign the value of 20 to this variable num. Okay. Then there are something called shorthand assignment operators, which are basically plus equal to. Plus equal to means that there's a variable called num3. Take the value of num3, whatever is the value inside the num3, and add 10 to it. And then whatever is the answer, assign it back to num. So it's a shorthand operator for something like this. So it means that, hey, take the value of num3, add 10 to it, and whatever is the answer of this thing, assign it back to num3. So that way we can easily do that. And this is a standard arithmetic operation. But using a shorthand can be easy to code, or reduce the number of words we type and reduce the number of lines we do. Most commonly, I always try to write this. It's a simple expression, doesn't consume much time to type, and more easy to understand and explain. But again, people are using the shorthand operators as well commonly. And then you can use for plus, you can use it for minus, you can use it multiply, divide as well. All have the same shorthand operator. It is not only for plus. Okay, perfect. Let's move forward. Let's talk more about data types. Now we have talked about the variables. Variables meaning that something that contains the value. But what type of value it contains is known as data types. This data type defines that if I create something in inverted quotations, this is known as a string. Okay, again, see, nothing is specified here. This is automatically, implicitly defined by the JavaScript compiler internally. So browser automatically understands that, hey, this is a string because I've used inverted quotations. So there's let string, so I just create a variable name. Any variable name is valid as long as there's no space. Then if I declare a 42, it becomes a number. If I define something called true, true is now considered as a boolean value. Boolean value means a value that is only true or false. Then we can create something like an object. Object meaning having a key and value pair. So we say there's a key called name, colon, its value is 20. Then there's a key called age, its colon, its value is 30. So it's like variables within a variables. They are becoming object. So now when I need to print this value, I will use object and its key. It will all give me the value. And I will say object dot key, it will give me its value. Then we have something called arrays. Arrays are collection of similar data type, meaning that it's a collection of data type. Previously, the data can hold on a single variable. So a single variable, in other words, holds a single value. A single value is stored in a single variable. So at any given time, each variable will have only one value. But at a certain point, we need a variable to hold multiple values. To do that, we use something called arrays. Arrays allows us to have a single variable containing multiple values. To do that, we use square brackets and then the value, comma separated, the value, comma separated, the value. This can be a string value, this can be an integer value, this can be a true and false, this can be a decimal numbers, whatever you want. But the point is that this variable is considered now an array because this array variable holds multiple values. So we use square brackets, value, comma value, and then semicolon at the end. Okay, these are some basic data types in JavaScript. Let's talk more about JavaScript functions. Functions are, as said, block of code. Block of code means that when we execute a function, it's going to perform a specific task. Such as, in this case, we create a function by syntax using the word function. So this is a part of a syntax. Oops. So you say, hey, I'm creating a function and I give it a name, greet, welcome, whatever name that function is going to perform. So for example, addition, convert centimeter to meter, making sure the name does not contain any spaces. That's a standard rule with the variables and the names. It should not start with a number as well. So if it starts with a number, JavaScript will create a problem. Same in the variable result. So if you start a variable with a number, it starts creating a problem. So we say, hey, there's a function, meaning a block of code that's going to perform a specific task. That function will take an argument called name, means that when I call this function, I need to pass it an argument, and then we use that argument value, variable name plus string attached to it, and then we say return basically means reply. So there are 3-4 things happening within the one line of syntax. So when we declare a function, the syntax is that we have a function keyword, we give a function name, bracket start, bracket close. These brackets actually indicate this is a function. Without the brackets, it could be a variable. So that's why the brackets are important for a function. For every function in every programming language has brackets, indicating that this is a function, not a variable. So once we have a function, we brought bracket start, bracket close. Inside the brackets, we give something called arguments. So that's the third thing. Function keyword, function name, brackets, third, and the fourth thing is variable name. Then we start the block, close the block. Okay, this becomes a typical syntax of a function. Inside the function, we say, hey, I have a variable called name. So this basically meaning this argument is that when I execute this method, I need to give it some value. It's like asking somebody to buy something and then you hand over the money, that here's the money, go and buy something. So giving that money is an argument. It's a passing a parameter, passing a value. So we say, hey, as a name. Then whatever you want to perform this function here depends on that. Here we have used something called return as well. Return means that when this function executes, it will return a value to me. It will give me a reply. So when I give somebody money, go buy this thing, they buy it and then they bring it back to me. Okay, so when I bring back to me, I need to receive the reply. So that reply, that answer of that function is done through return. This is not mandatory. It depends on what your logic is, what you want to achieve. So what we do now is we use console.log to print the output. We call the function greet. Now no longer need a word function. This is function declaration, means we only declaring what this function is supposed to do. Okay, so once we have declared it, now we need to call it. So this is function calling. Calling is just done by the word, no longer need the function. So we say, hey, I'm calling the function greet, bracket start, bracket close, but because it's going to need a variable, it needs a value, I'm going to pass this string value to it. So it's going to say output, hello, Dr. Zeeshan. Okay, so this is how functions are created, and JavaScript is full of functions. There are many functions that we use consistently. Then let's talk more about JavaScript objects. Objects are entities that hold values, not one value, values. They are considered as main entities. Variables technically hold only single value. Object can have a complete relational values within itself. So in this case, we say, hey, let person, again, the syntax is same, just like any other variable, is equals to block start, block close, semicolon ended. So first thing is we use curly brackets. Remember, in string, in array, we use square brackets, but in object, we use curly brackets. That's how JavaScript knows that this is an object and this is an array. So array always have a square brackets, and object has what we call curly brackets. So we say, hey, there's a curly bracket. Let's just create first name. So this first name is now key. This becomes a value. This for last name is a key. This becomes a value. This age is a key. This becomes a value. So we say person dot first name, it will give me John. If I say person dot last name, it will give me Doe. If you say person dot age, it will give us 50. If you just print the whole person, it's going to print the whole JavaScript object onto our console. So this is how we create objects. So we use key and pair value. So this becomes my key colon pair value. Key colon pair value. Comma separated. Do remember there's a comma as well. And the last value doesn't need to have a comma because it's the last and there's no any other preceding value. So every object in JavaScript is created on the same manner. This is again the important structure because then we use this structure in something called JSON, which we're going to talk about in the next video. So if you're following it, do subscribe. We're going to talk more about JSON as well, and jQuery and Ajax and all of the JavaScript codes. So don't forget to subscribe and follow. Then let's talk more about JavaScript object properties. So object basically, as we said, we have a person and we use the dot operator and then the key thing. So we say, hey, I have a person. Inside this person, there's a block of code. Inside this person, we have something called certain parameters. To use these object parameters, we use person dot operator. So dot behaves like a connection operator, and then we use the first name here. So this is how we access the object property within our JavaScript. Okay. Similarly, if I need to print the age as a person dot age as a person dot eye color, it's going to print the values of that thing. So using one object, I have accessing its parameters. It behaves very wonderfully. So that's how we did this thing. Console is an object. It holds the method called log. Similarly, when we talked about this document again is an object. It holds methods. So not only values, it can hold methods as well. Okay, we're going to talk about this later. So when we have methods, we are saying, hey, there's a document object. Inside their object, there's a write method. There's a window object. Inside it, there's an alert method. Similarly, we are using the same parameters here as well. There's a person dot. Currently, I just want to print its name. So there's no brackets here. Remember, as I said, the round brackets indicate the function. Let's talk more about JavaScript methods now. So when we say person dot full name is equals to, now we define a method, just like the previous example. But this time when we say, hey, I have a method called full name. I want to declare a method called full name. Instead of printing first name and last name, these are variables, in other words, key and value pair, single values. But when you declare a method, just like window or alert objects, we say, I have an object called person. Inside it, I want to create a method called full name is equals to, because this is going to be method, not a single value, now I need to use a function keyword. Functions and methods are technically same thing, but in JavaScript we differentiate function being an independent entity, methods being a part of an object. That's how we differentiate. So now we have a function that actually belongs to a person object, and that function name is full name. So that's how the syntax is basically a little bit different. So we use an object dot full name. Again, see this, there's nothing preceding to it that I'm creating and something object or not. You just use person dot full name is equals to, you use a function bracket start bracket close, then a block start block close semicolon. Inside it, you use return this dot first name plus this dot last name. So it's going to use, hey, I have a person already created. So because I'm referring to my own object, now I can use something called this. I can use person here as well. Okay, I can use person here as well, completely fine, no problem. But there's another easy way of doing it is just use this. This means my current object. Okay, this is a keyword that defines that I'm using my current object. I'm using my own object, which in this case is person. And we have already created this person with this value here. Okay, so we say I have a person object. Inside this person, I'm creating a function called full name. And now I want to use the data of my own function. So I'm going to say this dot first name plus bracket start bracket close plus this dot last name. So it's going to combine John and Doe together and then add a space in between it. So this first name will access my first name plus concatenated with this string. So because I need the space in between these two variables, so I add a string here, then add here. Now this plus will not do mathematical calculation, but it's going to do concatenation. We said, okay, no problem. Let's move on further. So now we're going to do print person dot full name function. Okay, so we have full name function. Now we are calling this function. So this is what we call function declaration. Declaration means it's not going to perform any task until you call this function. Okay, similarly, just like here, so we created a function, and until we call that function, it will not going to do any task. If you're creating independent, it's function. When we associate it with an object, we technically use the word method. Okay, basically meaning the same thing, but methods in JavaScript meaning that it belongs to a particular object. So now we're saying, hey, person dot full name. So this is my function name, same as document dot write or window dot alert methods, right? So window is an object, alert is a method that exists inside that has a block of code of how it does. Because it's going to have something called a return, means that when I call this function, it's going to return me my first name concatenated with the space, then concatenated with last name, joined in other words, and this is going to print this string in a format like that. That's how we work with object properties inside JavaScript. Let's talk about JavaScript object display. Now, objects can be displayed using console.log or by accessing properties. So we say console.log person.first name plus is person.age years old. So we are using the same object with the value plus is. Now is a string that I want to incorporate myself. So what I'm doing is I'm joining these two strings together. Okay, so we are accessing and displaying our objects information on our console. Now this can be a console, this can be a browser window, this can be a alert window. Okay, let's talk more about JavaScript object constructor. Because it's an object, objects tend to have something called a constructor. Okay, so we say function person, again a function name. Now but this time the function is the same name as person. We have first name, last name, age, eye color, block start, block close. Because this is a function preceding with a name, so this is a standard function, not an object. So now we say let my friend, so now I'm creating another variable is equals to, I'm using a new keyword. Okay, new keyword basically specifies that I'm creating a new object of type person. So this person or the function that we created will now automatically become an object because of this new keyword. So hence, when I say new person, it means that I'm creating an object for this new function person. Hence, this function now automatically will behave like an object. So when I pass it a value, Jane, Smith, age, green, meaning that I'm using these arguments. So see this person has 4 arguments now. It's saying, hey, I can have name, I can have Smith, I can have age, and I can have eye color. So I gave it a sequence of 4 variables. I name those variables intelligently so I understand what type of value they will hold. Similarly, when I created or passed those values, I gave my first name, I gave my second name, I gave it an age, and I gave it an eye color. This will create a new object and assign it to my friend. This person, bracket star, bracket close, now behaves like what we call a constructor. Okay, so we say a new object is created and it initialized by a constructor person. Okay, so this person is this person here, and it's gonna use these variables to initialize value, and then we're going to say, hey, this dot first name is equal to first name, this dot last name is equal to last name, this dot age is equal to age. So it's going to automatically assign. This means my current object's first name is the first name, last name is the last name, age is the age, eye color is the eye color. So my object's current value become updated with whatever values I pass here. So I say console.log my friend. Now I'm going to print the whole object values together. Let's talk more about something called JavaScript events now. JavaScript events are basically something that are triggered by the user. Okay, events are generally considered as input events that are triggered by the user. Moving a mouse cursor is an event, clicking is a mouse event, double clicking is a mouse event, pressing a key down, releasing a key, clicking on a key, mouse click, everything you do is basically events inside our computers, and certain events are triggered. Even moving the cursor over a text, moving the cursor out of a text is an event. Okay, so when I select a text, this is another event. Okay, when I hover the cursor over it, this becomes another event. So how do we access these events? So we say, listen, go to the document. Again, document is an object that represents your web page. We say get element by id called my button. Okay, so we create an element called button inside our document, and we give it a name or id called my button. Then we're going to execute this event called on click. Now this is the event here. So we say when I click on my button, okay, this on click event will be triggered. Once this is triggered, is equals to function. Now remember, this is what's happening. It's an executing and function of an object. So we are telling that if I have a document, inside it there's an element by my button, and then when I click on that my button, you execute the on click event. Once this event is executed, we create a function which becomes an object function, and we generate a message called alert window clicked or button clicked. This is how we simply execute an events in JavaScript. Or we can also have something like this. So if I just use, if I'm doing HTML, I can create a button tag, okay, and then I can have an on click event, and then I close this button and I can say click me. So once I have that, now I can say execute a function, which can be any function that I want. So in this case, I can say let's execute person dot full name. Okay, person dot full name is the function name. I think and capital bracket start bracket close. So now what we have done here is that we have said, hey, listen, I have a button inside my HTML. On this, I perform an on click event. Now this is an HTML code. This is an HTML attribute. On click means an event is triggered. Once I click on a button, exit, go inside here. There's a person object in my JavaScript that we just created earlier. Okay, here we had created this function, and then we say execute that function name. Voila, it's going to execute. So when I click on this button, this function gets executed. Or the second way is that we use this. So we say, hey, inside my button, I can have an ID, for example. I can say ID is equals to my BUTTN button. Oops, not button, button. Okay. So I have ID called my button. Now I don't no longer need to do that. So what happens now is that if I use this now, It says that I have a button inside my code. It has an ID called my button. When user clicks on it, perform the function. The advantage here is that it can be anything. So for example, I can have an anchor tag, okay, and I can say click link, and this anchor tag can have an ID is equals to my my b button, okay, and then I can have anything like href, and then I can say hash or whatever link I want. So now what I've done here is I have created an anchor tag that has a button ID. So now what this function will do is that whenever there is a whenever I click on this button, it's going to read that. So I will use a JavaScript to do this function. Okay, so I'm saying, hey, when I click on this button, read this code and then perform this action. Because we say get element by ID, there's an ID called my button. When user clicks on it, do this task. So there's an ID called my button. When I click on it, do this task. That's how we process events in it. And there are various different events. You have on click, on mouse over, on key press, on hover, and so on and so forth. Then let's talk more about something called JavaScript strings. Strings are a very simple way of representing multiple texts or multiple characters. So anytime we create a string, we mean that we have inverted quotation start, inverted quotation close. We have a multiple characters. We assign the variable's value in a variable. And then now this variable behaves like a string. So we say string is there. Because this is a string, by default, string has certain functions that are associated with it, which in this case are, for example, dot length, then to uppercase, to lowercase. So if I create a string, the advantage here becomes that a string by default comes with certain internal methods. In this case, we have a length, but this function does not have a brackets. Do keep in mind on that. Length is only the type of function that doesn't have a bracket. So we are saying, hey, I have a greeting, dot length means it has a certain number of functions. Then I go and I say, hey, listen, greeting, take the string to uppercase, this time that has round brackets. Somehow for ages from C, C++, Java, every language, string has a function called length without brackets. It calculates how many number of characters are there in a string. It's going to print that number of characters for us. Then we say JavaScript string. Other methods include such as to uppercase, to lowercase, trim, slice. Many other methods are existing, and the detail can be found on W3 School's website. These methods perform a specific task on the given string. So when I create a string, I use dot to uppercase. So this is my string, but I have not declared any function. But you see, I'm able to use that function. How? Because it's internally implicitly present with every string. So automatically when you create a string, this behaves like an object. So a string basically becomes an object, and you can use that object to process the data. You can even do in string search as well. So you can say, hey, greeting dot index of find the word world, and it's going to give us the index from which the word begins. So the index starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. You say the word W or the word starts at the 7th index. So it's going to find some words within our string as well. Okay. Then we use something called string templates. Templates mean that we provided a certain template. We can say welcome to dollar sign, bracket start, bracket close, and we use the word greeting. So this word greeting now becomes a template. Okay. So in other words, now when we use the message, we print the message, it's going to print us welcome to hello world. Why? Because it's going to say, hey, I have a word called greeting. It contains the text hello world. Now in order to use it, I have a process of this variable here. So whatever is the value stored in this variable will be printed here. So I can say if I have, for example, any other name, if I use my name here, my name will be replaced in this template. So this behaves like a template. So once you have that, you can use this, ask this data or ask a user to give a value. Whatever value is given here will be concatenated and used with this string template. And then you can print that variable's value on the console. Understand? Very easy. Let's move on to something called Java numbers. Numbers are very standard integer numbers that are whole numbers that we can use in either form of 1, 2, 3, 4 or in decimal numbers. You can have exponential notation as well represented here using the E symbol. So 1, 2, 3 exponent 5 means that it has 1, 2, 3 and exponential 5 point notations. You can also use that. You use the values, variables value, print those variables values here. We can have something called big integer. This is a normal integer, meaning that it uses a standard size of 4 bytes. But if you want an 8-byte character which has a very big number, then you use a very big number and then you proceed it with n. This n is a reference point letting it know that I'm using a very big integer variable. Because there's no initial data type specifications, we provide the n value to indicate, hey, I have this big value. Then we have something called console, and then we print that value. So it's this large big number is going to be printed on our console. So in case you are using a gigantic number to represent a value, you can use the n here. JavaScript number methods. So since just like string, we have JavaScript number methods as well. So we say let number C. So for example, I create a decimal value. I can say number C to fix 2. So it's going to round it off and use it to put 2 decimal fixed values. Okay. So if to fixed 2 basically means that, hey, round off and put it to 2 decimal values. So 9.656 becomes 9.66. I can use number properties as well. So I can say console dot number dot maximum value. It's going to tell me the maximum value that can be stored in this particular variable. So number again, see, is capital N is a number dot maximum value. So I'm saying, hey, what maximum value I can store here? It's going to use that. Understand? JavaScript arrays, we have already talked about this in previously. Let's talk more about what exactly we can do with this thing. So when we have JavaScript arrays, we can say let fruits. Again, let means we're creating a variable, square bracket start, square bracket n, semicolon. We give it multiple values, each comma separated. So arrays are what we call collection of data. So collection of data assigned in a single variable with a square brackets. So when you print the variable's fruit value, it's going to print the whole array elements together. But the advantage is that you can perform certain methods and actions on this array as well. So you can say, hey, fruits.push kiwi. This means that we want to add a new item to the array. So whenever you want to add a new item, you use the method called push and give that value. So that item will go to the last of the chain. You can also do searching. So you can say fruits.index of apple. It's going to say, hey, apple is at a second index. Now you do note that the array index, just like in the string, starts from the 0. So this is 0 index, this is 1 index, and apple is actually on the index number 2. So that's why the output will give us the 2 value. So you can use index of with arrays as well as a string to do simple searching in your mechanism. You can always use a sorting to sort out the arrays as well. Okay, to sort out the arrays, we use a sort function. So we can say fruit.sort, and then we can print the values of sort. So it's going to sort the entire array and then print the sequence array elements in a particular sequence. So simply using array.sort allows us to sort the data. We can use array iteration as well. To use the array iteration, we use something called a loop, which is for each loop. Here we say fruits, go inside the fruits. For each element inside the fruit, we create a runtime function. Okay, for each element inside an array, okay, this for each will traverse each element of an array. And when we have each element, we create a runtime function. Means at the runtime, we create a function without any name. It's an anonymous function, and we give it a certain task to execute. So this is going to say, hey, go inside the fruits, iterate through each element, read one by one element. Automatically, this for each has this built into it. So we don't need to write anything. It automatically goes, read elements, and then you can do many other things here. It's not necessary that you create a function and do the part. There can be operations, printing, multiplication, division, and so on and so forth. So one way is doing it, we perform an anonymous or a runtime function. So we say create a function, pass it that value. So where this value will come from, it will come from this for each. Each element is read here, block start, block close, and it's going to say console.log value, print that value on the console. So it's going to print each element's value one by one as a separate value on the line. Or you can ask it to perform any number of tasks here. So iteration of array is done through something called for each and creating something called an anonymous functions. Array constants. So array can be a constant as well. You can declare an array as simply constant, meaning that once its value is there, it cannot be changed. Okay. You can declare dates as well inside JavaScript by using something called new date function. Now again, new will create an object, call a dates constructor, which is by default present by the JavaScript system. So we don't need to declare it. And once we do that, it will automatically fetch the latest date from our system. So that's how we usually see the dates on our browsers. Whenever we see a dates on the browsers, it's basically using this date function to get the latest date from our system. And then we can print it, process it, check it whether you are valid or not, expiry or not, anything is that. The dates have various different formats. So we can say to date string. So it will print the Wednesday, August, for example, 2023, date in a particular format. We can say JavaScript date get method. So we can use, hey, date, go inside this date variable, get full year for me. Okay, so this method is again by default present. We don't need to declare it. So once we do that, it's going to give me the current year only. We can say, hey, JavaScript set the date method. So we can say go inside the date, set full year to 2025. So it's going to change the variable value. Now remember, once we get the date, it's going to fetch us the current date, but then you can change it. It will not change the system date. It will just change the date of this variable. So to change the variable of date of this variable, we can use what we call the set method. To do that, we use set full year and then we give it the year that we want to change. To read the date, we use the get full year method. So get and set methods are there defining that what you want to do. Get defines that you want to read some data. Set defines that you want to change some data. Then you have something called math class in JavaScript as well. JavaScript math class allows us to perform mathematical functions more than arithmetic functions. Arithmetic are just operative, right? If you want to perform a mathematical functions within JavaScript, then you use something called math class. Again, this is by default, or math object, sorry. This math object is by default present. We don't need to create it. It has something called .py, which is again a variable. Inside this object, it has a variable called pi, and you can use it and it will print the value of pi. Similarly, there's sqrt, there's log, sine, random. Various different functions can be performed. Sqrt evidently will give us the square root of whatever number we pass. You use math.random. This will generate a random number between 0 and 1 in terms of points. Okay, and then when we can work on that. Then moving on, we have something called booleans. Again, we have talked about boolean. Boolean is a variable value that can either hold true and it will print true or false. That's it. It only holds either true and false, 0 and 1. That's it. It's quite commonly used in conditional statements. We need to tell the system what type of data we are using. So Boolean is allowing us to have that functionality to have true or false alone. So if I set it to true, this means that this variable value is now true. Then we use this in condition statements. Let's talk more about this conditional and comparison statements. So we have something called JavaScript comparisons. We use these comparison operators, greater than, equal to, not equal to, less than, equal to. These signs allows us to do a standard compare. This comparison means that we are comparing one value with another. So we are saying, hey, 10 is greater than 9. This means this is a comparison operator. Similarly, we have comparison operator called less than. Okay, this is in fact, if I say this is greater than. Okay, greater value, we have less than value. We have something called this operator, which is equal to value, and so on and so forth. There are many few other things as well. Again, detail can be found on W3 Schools. But these comparison operators allows us to do the comparison between two values and return either true or false in form of a Boolean variable. So whenever we do comparisons, we have this option here. We also have something called greater than equal to. Okay, oops, greater than equal to. We have called greater and equal to. Okay, we have something called less than equal to. So we say less and equal to. These are standard 5 operators. And then finally, we have something called not as well. Not, in fact, we use it like that, not equal to. So these are comparison operators we have. We use these comparison operators in something called if-else statements. These if-else statements are conditional statements that allows us to evaluate a condition. We take a variable, we say if, again a keyword, a reserve word, we say time, this variable is less than 12. So what we are now doing is we are evaluating an expression. We are saying, hey, if this time variable is less than 12, you print some statement. If this time variable is not less than 12, this condition becomes false, then you execute something called else. Okay, so if and else structure are there, they allow us to evaluate a certain condition. If time is true, or else if it's, so if time is 10 means time is 10, this condition becomes false, it's going to go to this. For example, if I make it 120, now what this means that the value of time is 120. So 120, this becomes false because this value is bigger, this is smaller. So we are comparing these two variables values together. We're saying, hey, if the value of time is smaller than 12, if this is true, then you need to print this time. Else, if this becomes false, go here. So it's a bidirectional binary tree kind of a structure. If the condition is true, this line is executed. This one is completely ignored at the bottom. But if this becomes false, in this case, then the top part is ignored and the bottom part is executed. Similarly, we have something called a switch statement. We say switch is always evaluating a equal to comparison. Day is equals to 2. For example, we declare a variable, we say switch, again a keyword, and we pass it the value of day. Now what it's going to do is comparing the value of day with the case 1, which is again equal to. So it's going to say, is the value of day equal to 1? If true, print Monday, break, stop the execution flow, come out. Ignore all other lines at the bottom. Else, if this becomes false, then come here. So in if else statements, we can use comparisons less than equal to or not equal to values. Switch always does this equal to comparison. It only evaluates one thing, direct one-on-one equal to. If it's equal to, done, otherwise move forward. So it's going to say, hey, if switch is equal to 2, then print the value Tuesday, break, stop the execution flow, come out. If it's nothing, so for example, if I set it to 7, it's going to say, hey, is the value of day equal to 7? True, execute this. If not, ignore this whole thing, come to case 2. Is it equal to 2? If true, execute this thing. If they are equal, yes. If they're not equal, completely ignore. If none of the case matches, then automatically it's going to execute the default statement. Okay, so for example, in this case, both case became false, hence there's no longer needing to check the statement, and we use something called default. It's like a default statement and exit strategy that we want to use. Now let's talk more about JavaScript loops. Now what exactly are loops? Loops are statements that repeat itself. Okay, so previously we have talked about if else. You can write as many if else as you want, but if condition is true, the statement will execute one time and the block will exit. If the statement is false, the else statement gets executed, the statement gets executed and then ends. So it means only one time. It checks the condition, based on that it does execute one time. However, in loops, it will keep on executing itself until the condition becomes false. So we have something called for loop. The for loop allows us to reiterate statements, and until the condition is false, it will continue to execute. The way it works is, it says for, we declare bracket start bracket close, again the syntax is there. Then we declare a variable inside it, we say let I is equals to 0, again so with semicolon. So this is statement 1. Okay, inside the for loop we declare a variable, that's a statement 1. Then the statement 2, or the second part of this loop, is we give a condition. So that if I is 0, if the value of I is less than 5. So this is a conditional statement that we use using the same relational operators. Then we increment the value of I by 1. So plus plus is an increment operator in mathematics. So we say that initialize it with 0, check the condition. If the condition is true, means I value is really less than 5, execute the block of code. So whatever we write here will execute. Then do the increment. So I value is changed to 1. Now, is the new value of I less than 5? If the condition becomes true, again iterate the value, the block. Then again, change the value of I. Now it becomes 2. Again, is I less than 5? Yes. Then again iterate. So it will keep on iterating until this condition is satisfied. This is for loop. Similarly, in JavaScript, we have something called for in loop, which is typically used to traverse through various different arrays or objects. The way it works is that we declare a variable called let car info, and for example, we created an object. So we say make Toyota model Corolla year 2000. So key value, key value, key value options. Now to traverse through each of these elements, we use for loop, the same, but instead of this structure here, now the syntax changes. We say let key. Now again, we know that let is used to declare a variable. So yes, we are declaring a variable, just like we said let I. However, the condition increment and the initialization is not done. We say let key in car info. Now here the word in is quite powerful. In defines that go inside this variable called car info or object, read each element and assign it to the value key. So once the loop executes first time, because of this in, it's going to read the car info, read the first element and assign it to the key. and then print it value here. So however we want. Then it will go inside again, because it's a loop, it will reiterate and say, hey, is there any next element? Said yes. So read the next element, assign it again to the key. So now the value of key is overridden with the new value, and then it's printed here. Then again, third time it goes and takes the next value from the car info, assigns it to the key, again key value is overridden and printed here. The fourth time it executes, it say, hey, there's no more item here. So it will automatically end and come out. So there's no end condition, no increment, no initialization in the for in loop. It's done automatically by this one single word in a powerful manner. So we have declared a variable, we said in car info, so it is going to automatically traverse each element of the car, assign it to the variable value and print it. The printing that is done is that we use the key, because this will hold a single value. Do keep this thing in mind. So we say print the value of key plus colon. Okay, so this becomes a colon here, and then we're going to say car info, go inside the car info and print that key again here. Now what we have done here is, because the key will return the key value, okay, this key, again as I said, key and value pair, key and value pair. It's not going to give us the value Toyota right away. This car info is going to read the first element with its value. So it's going to take make, assign it to this key. So we're going to say the make, and we're going to use the colon to print in the same syntax, invert, and then plus car info, again this variable name or the object name, and in square brackets, because this is in form of an array, we're going to print this key information here. So if the key is make, it's going to print Toyota. If the key is model, it's going to print Corolla. If the key is year, it's going to print value. So this is how we use for in loop to print our or iterate through our array elements. Then we have something called Java for off loop. So another version of for loop. For off loop is typically used to traverse through array elements, the square brackets. So we say for let color. So again, we declare a variable, but not initialize it, because we're going to initialize it with using the off keyword. In will traverse through each object, off will traverse through the colors array. So it's going to say, hey, we have an array, read through the first element, assign the array element to this color variable, and then we're going to print the color. So this is going to hold a single value. Then it's going to iterate, read the next element from the colors array. Off will allow us to iterate, read, and then assign. So it's performing multiple operations, just this one word. So until it reaches to the end of an array, when all elements are end, this will automatically return false and exit the loop. So for off loop is typically used for traversing through our array elements. Then similar to that, we have another version of looping called while loop. So for and while are quite commonly used throughout programming. While loop again does the same thing as for, just a different way of writing it. That's it. So syntax wise is different, but operation wise it does the same thing. So for while loop doesn't only needs condition actually. So it doesn't have an initialization. So that variable declaration and initialization is done outside the loop. So we declare the variable count is equals to 0. We say go inside the loop, count less than 5 is the value of count less than 5. If the condition becomes true, execute the block of code, do the increment, and then again come here. Now because count was 0, count because of this increment, plus plus means just add 1 to it. So now it becomes 1. Is the value of count less than 5? Condition true. Execute the code, do the increment, again repeat itself. So it's going to do the same repetitions multiple times. And while we do the initialization before it, check the condition, and inside the body we do the increment. In for loop, we do this all in one single line, separated by a semicolon. The purpose is the same for both the loops. Then we have something called break. Break allows us to break the execution flow of code, just like in switch and case statement. If the case becomes true, break and exit the block. Similarly, break can be used at other places as well. It's a keyword that performs a specific task. So for example, if I loop through an element from 1 to 10, so I say start from 0, check up till 10 condition, increment 1. But I want to skip a specific number. So I say if I value is equals to 3. So if the value of I becomes 3, okay, so we use triple equal to sign here to do the exact comparison, that if the value of I becomes equals to 3, just break. Break means that don't print the next line and exit the loop, just reiterate the loop. So it's going to reiterate the loop and break it out. Okay, so you can, and in this case, break has to be used with the if condition. If you don't use it, it will just going to break at one time. So here, break is used with if condition. Okay, Then finally, we have something called Java Iterables, JavaScript Iterables. Iterables again behave same as Java for off loop. Basically, in for off loop, we iterate an array. But using the same for off loop, you can iterate through a string as well. Okay, so if I declare a string called let iteratable and I declare a string variables, learn with W3 schools, we say for let character of iteratable. Now, because this is a string, it's going to iterate through each single character rather than iterating through a whole value. So in arrays, it's going to iterate the whole value. If you use a single string instead of an array, it's going to iterate through a single character. So we create a variable, name it whatever you want. We say of iteratable, again, this variable here, and we're going to console.print that variable. So it's going to print each of these characters on a separate line. Okay, so you can iterate through the string carrier as well using the same for loop. Okay, perfect. So I hope that concludes the whole session. Some things I tried to discuss. I hope you enjoyed it, liked it, and it wasn't too fast. I try to go as moderate paced as I can. But do let me know in your comments what you liked about this video. Too boring, too fast, how you felt about it, what concepts you didn't understand. I am going to make a detailed video on JavaScript. I already have some part of it already made. So do check that out. And if you want to learn more about JavaScript, let me know in the comments and I can make a complete detailed tutorial, which again is in pipeline, is in the plan, but I will try to expedite that process. Okay, so thank you very much for that. Do subscribe the channel if you haven't, because next I'm going to make on JSON as well. I'm going to make something on Ajax. I already have the code for that. So I will be working on this more tutorials in React as well. So if you want to learn about JSONs, Ajax, jQuery, React, and other technologies of coding, don't forget to subscribe and follow this channel. Leave your comments. Let me know what you found interesting, what you didn't like, if this was completely crap. Please be open about it so I can improve and change things. Thank you. This is Dr. Zeeshan Bhatti signing off.